Greetings, this is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct from Black Facts Headquarters Central this afternoon, right here in Kent, Ohio. We're coming at you live and direct with another presentation of Doc Ock at noon and 9. And we got some of the good stuff for you today. I know you keep thinking, wow, when is he going to ever run out of stuff to do or to say, or when is he going to start repeating himself and just start running reruns? Not going to happen. We could do this for another couple more years without ceasing. That's right, because the vastness of African history and culture is just that deep. So let's go ahead and get it on. First and foremost, you know what we want you to do. Give us a like if you're watching on Facebook. Give us a thumbs up if you're watching us on the tube. And then go ahead. Don't be a rube. Give us a little lube, a little grease, okay? Slap the palms with your friends, your family, even your enemies, and let them know what they should be doing and where they should be at right around now. Every single day, 7 days a week, we're right here. We're either doing a live stream or we're putting up a playlist. Either way, it should not be missed, because then you're just going to be feeling kind of pissed or maybe even kind of dissed. But we're not trying to diss you, and we're not trying to miss you. Let's go ahead and do our proverb of the day, which right now we're not doing proverbs for this month. This month, we're going to be doing the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. The philosophy and opinions of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. That's what we're going to do this month. So let's get it on. Here's what I'm looking for right here. A good pencil. So today's words of inspiration. What you do today that is worthwhile inspires others to act at some future time. And there we have it. Straight from the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey, edited by one of his wives, Amy Jacques Garvey. Okay, Amy Jacques. And there we go. Let's see what else we got over here for you today, because we're just not going to play. Oh, we're continuing to read from the book here, The World's Great Men of Color, published way back in I don't know if it was 1933, I know it was in the what does it have in here? Oh, this one has here copyright 1947. And this is actually the 4th edition, published in 1960. So he went through a number of editions of this book because it was pretty popular and he was pushing it all over the place. So let's go ahead and get it on, as the young folks like to say. Let's go ahead and get it on. You know the song I'm talking about. Incredible as it may sound too, Marcus Garvey endorsed the Ku Klux Klan. Now, I'm reminding you here now, there were some people out there that did not like Marcus Garvey, and it seems as though J.A. Rogers was one of them. So if sometimes this sounds like a hit job, that may be because it was a hit job. The most insidious foe of the Negro and American democracy, the KKK, was endorsed by Marcus Garvey. He called on the head of the Klan at Atlanta, Georgia, pledged him his support, and announced that he and the Klan had one thing in common. The Klan was fighting to make America a white man's land, and he was fighting to make Africa a black man's land. He also allied himself with the pernicious Anglo-Saxon clubs of America, sworn enemies of the Negro, and invited their leaders to his Liberty Hall platform, where they were acclaimed by his followers. He called what he and they were doing the ideals of two races. He had John Powell, head of these clubs, speak to a huge crowd from his platform on October 28, 1925, where Powell praised and sold White America by Ernest Sevier Cox, a pseudo-history intended to prove that Negroes were an inferior race from the dawn of time. On page 414 of his Philosophy and Opinions, he carried free a full-page ad of this vicious book. Cox, in return, wrote a pamphlet dedicated to Garvey, whom he called a martyr for the independence and integrity of the Negro race. Garvey had allied himself with these sinister organizations largely as one way of getting revenge on the American Negro leaders, nearly every one of whom were in opposition to him. In fact, he seemed to take a delight in opposing everything for which the Negro leaders stood. During the Italo-Ethiopian War, he frequently denounced Haile Selassie. His special target was Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, who in an article in The Crisis had called him a little fat black man, ugly but with intelligent eyes and a big head. I mean, it got personal, okay? It got personal up in here, straight up. These are not your regular, average, everyday, quote unquote Negroes. These are the the uppity ups, the higher class Negroes, the ones who were intelligent, who could read and write, the intellectuals, the leaders of the day. And they running around calling each other little fat black men that are ugly but with intelligent eyes and a big head. I mean, that's saying something about Garvey, but it's saying a whole lot more about W.E.B. Du Bois, especially since he ended up dying in Africa. Yeah, he ended up going back to Africa where Garvey never went, interestingly enough. The Klan and the Anglo-Saxon clubs had promised him congressional support to get his followers to Africa, but used him only as a tool. Of course, they were willing to give him a free hand in Africa, where they had neither power nor interest, in exchange for the substantial benefits derived from the exploitation of Negroes in America. His endorsement of the Klan was the last straw to his opponents. 8 of them signed a petition to the Department of Justice citing cases of violence committed by members of his organization, all of which it was alleged had been incited by Garvey himself. They quoted Section 3, Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution, of the Constitution of his organization, as proof that it encouraged lawlessness. This section read, "No one shall be received by the potentate and his consort who has been convicted of felony, except such crime or felony was committed in the interest of the Universal Negro Improvement Association." This petition had almost immediate effect because in matters legal, Garvey was very vulnerable, especially in his selling of stock in the Black Star Line, which was in a most wretched financial state. He had been carrying glowing full-page ads in his speeches published in the Negro World, offering stock in a quote-unquote phantom ship, the Phyllis Wheatley, on which he had only paid a deposit. It was not yet his and still bore its original name, the Orion. His enemies, who had patiently been gathering the evidence against him for years, now turned it over to the federal government, and he was indicted for using the mail to defraud. The case came up in New York in May 1923. He was defended on the opening day by a brilliant member of the bar, a Negro who was later appointed as a federal attorney. But Garvey was so accustomed to ruling the roost that he could not stand having another to speak for him, and discharging him, took over his own defense. The trial, up to this point, had proceeded with dignity, but now it deteriorated into low comedy, which, if anything, reflected indirectly upon black people as a whole. Garvey was completely ignorant of legal methods and fully illustrated the adage, "He who pleads his own case as a fool for a client." Several times the judge found it necessary to tell the attorney defendant that the court was not conducting a law school. Garvey, the showman, ran riot, and there were times when even the judge joined the laughter. At times he would resort to the style of a backwoods attorney, apparently thinking that verbal fireworks would impress the jury. When witnesses for the prosecution appeared on the stand, he would pull old legal gags, such as, "Do you still beat your wife? Yes or no?" It was clear to all except defendant counsel Garvey that he was fighting his way into the penitentiary. The white press had an orgy of fun. It came out in the trial that the Yarmouth, or the Frederick Douglass, as Garvey had renamed it, had sent an SOS while taking its liquor cargo to Cuba, but said the white press, the message had read SOUSE. "We are sinking and drinking." It is alleged the Negroes had taken to the lifeboats with a life belt in one hand and a bottle of whiskey in the other. For 3 weeks, the case made comic copy, while self-respecting Negroes squirmed. Arthur Brisbane, noted editor of that time, wrote, "To jail Garvey would be to jail a rainbow." Garvey took the stand on his own behalf and blamed his troubles on his lawyers and his Negro captain. He also made a summation of his case, which lasted for 3 hours and was undoubtedly the finest speech of his career. Justice, not sympathy, was his refrain. "I want no mercy, only justice," he said, and one felt that he meant every word. "I have served my people," he went on, "my race and my God. I have wronged not even a child of my own race or any other. I would not betray my struggling race. If I did, I deserve to be thrown into the nethermost depths of hell. If I have committed any offense in truth, and it is a violation of the law, I say it is your duty to find me guilty and let me have the full extent of the law. I ask no mercy. I ask no sympathy. I ask but justice based on the testimony given in this court. Faultlessly dressed, now with a handkerchief in one hand and a glass of water in the other. Now with a document or a slip of yellow paper handed him by his legal advisor, fluttering in his fingers. He was impressive. He thundered, gesticulated, crouched, writhed, shot forth angry, accusing fingers, shook his heavy shoulders. The perspiration fell in large drops from his stubbly head or beard as he swung his short, massive body from side to side. He was theatrical, probably from platform habit, but at times he was quite sincere. His followers wept. Friend and foe listened, enthralled by the voice that sank at times to soft denunciation and then rose in thunders of wrath, scorn, and accusation. The jury, after 12 hours, returned a verdict of guilty on one count, and the court inflicted the maximum penalty, 5 years imprisonment, $1,000 fine, and costs. The sentence was considered very severe, as at that time several worse offenders were given a year or less. Moreover, Of the 35,000 or so Negro stockholders, there had only been 5 or 6 complainants, and these had appeared against him only after much urging. There were reasons which had undoubtedly influenced the judge, Julian W. Mack, however. During the trial, Garvey had indulged in several outbursts of anti-Semitism, and when called before Judge Mack after the jury had found him guilty, he shouted, "Damn the Jews." His unfortunate deal with the Yarmouth had been with a Jewish firm, and thereafter he had blamed all Jews for the affair. But both Judge Mack and the prosecuting attorney, Maddock, were Jewish. Judge Mack was also one of the directors of the National Association for the Advancement of, wait for it, Colored People, an organization then engaged in a bitter fight against the Ku Klux Klan, Garvey's ally. During his release on bail, he appeared his case to the U.S. Supreme Court and resumed his activities. To show his strength, he founded another steamship line, the Black Star Corporation, and raised enough money to buy a modern first-class ship, which he called the Booker T. Washington, for $160,000. That's in 1920-something dollars. It sailed for the West Indies after a great send-off in New York City, but on its return was seized and sold for the many judgments that accumulated against him. The Supreme Court affirmed the verdict against him, and he was taken to Atlanta Penitentiary, where he proved a model prisoner. Many attempts were made to get a pardon for him, and in 1927, his sentence was commuted by President Coolidge, and he was deported to Jamaica. There he entered politics and won a seat in the city council. Well, that's something I did not know. I didn't realize his sentence had been commuted. Causing a considerable stir, he entered politics and won a seat on the city council, causing a considerable stir on the island by his articles in his newspaper, The Black Man. In a libel case, he was cited for contempt of court and sentenced to 3 months imprisonment and a heavy fine. On his release, he went to England and agitated there, but was generally ignored. With his determination to get a foothold in Africa, as firm as ever, he petitioned the League of Nations for land. In Paris, he addressed an audience well disposed toward his program. Nothing, however, came of his efforts in Europe, and he ended up returning to Jamaica. In 1931, he again returned to Europe and petitioned the League of Nations, and again without result. His great organization, No Longer News, became a shell. He spoke sometimes in Hyde Park, but the English press ignored him until his death on June 11, 1940, in London, England. And we will pick up tomorrow from right there. Wow, it's taken us all week to read this. I didn't think it would take that long. But very interesting summation of the life of one Marcus Mosiah Garvey by a fellow countryman, J.A. Rogers, who was also from Jamaica. That's right, both of them were Jamaicans, but J.A. Rogers was a very light-skinned Jamaican, whose wife, I believe, was just as light-skinned maybe as him, as opposed to Garvey, who was very dark-skinned, although his wife, both of his wives were very light-skinned. So I don't know how much colorism played into this, but I do know from reading J.A. Rogers' piece that it seems as though J.A. Rogers had a personal axe to grind. But he certainly did give us more than one side of the story. He certainly did give us more than one side of the story, and I appreciate J.A. Rogers' honesty in doing that, in giving us more than one side of the story. So we will finish that up tomorrow. We only have a few more pages left in that particular piece, and we'll be continuing on all this month with more about Marcus Garvey, the Right Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association that he founded, which became a worldwide, the largest worldwide organization of black folks ever seen on the planet Earth. Period. Dot. So for all of his faults and all of his foibles and all of his ramblings and rantings and ravings, etc., Marcus Garvey was no clown. You know, there is a book out there called Negro in a Big Hat or something of that nature. And it seems as though the author tells you what his position is before you even open the book. Because he's already, that sounds like a slam right there. However, Marcus Mosiah Garvey was more than just a Negro with a fancy hat. Much more than that. And has inspired people for decades, I would dare say centuries, following his demise. So look for us tonight at 9. This is Doc Ock at noon and 9 signing off. You know what I want you to do before you go. If you haven't already, give us a like. If you're watching on Facebook, a thumbs up if you're on the tube. And then go ahead and make that donation. We need your donations. The more donations, the better. We're not doing this as a vacation. We're doing this as a vocation. That's right. We are turning this into a full-time project where this is what we do. And we need your support. We don't need a lot from each individual, but we need something. 5, 10, 15, 20. Drop that little bit of money. www.blakfacts.org. That's where you can find me, and as you will see, you can make a donation right there. If you're on Facebook, on your phone, go to your notifications list. It's over there on the right-hand side. Just scroll down in notifications, and you can see where we have a donation link over there. If you're on your desktop, it's right below the any of our pieces on Facebook or on YouTube. Go right below. There'll be links down there to make donations. So go ahead and do this. We try to only ask once per month so that we're not constantly asking for a re-up. But if you make a recurring donation, that's even better. Then we don't have to ask you. A tisket, a tasket. Put some money in that basket. Peace out, y'all. With justice, of course. Because peace without justice disgusts us.